Hi, everybody. Welcome to the January edition of the Second Tuesday Photo Huddle. Tonight, we want to be mixing it up with Michelle. We're going to be playing with some milk and oil and paint. This is Michelle. Michelle goes by Lady Inkblot. So, Michelle, why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about yourself?
Hello and welcome to everybody. I have been a professional photographer for, way longer than I care to even remember at this point. When I was first a professional photographer, I became a member of Workshoot Studio underneath the founder of Larry Heibel, who graciously took me under his wing and pretty much mentored me in everything that I know. And I just expanded it further and got way more artistic and creative with my photography. As you can see on the screen, this is all the ways to contact me. Drop me an email, visit the website, Instagram, Facebook. So as you can tell from the backdrop, this is artsy fartsy fun playtime with basically kitchen household items that you can find fairly simply. We are going to go over what we need, how to do the lighting, how to set it up, how to create the patterns, and then how to capture the images. So super simple, whole milk, because it has a lot of fat content in it. It helps the paints interact and play more, especially when you start mixing stuff in with dish soap. You can put them in basically anything. You can do clear baking dishes. We experimented with a coffee cup, as you'll see in some of the images. A lot of these bowls I've gotten from Goodwill for super inexpensive, plus you probably have them laying around. The paint may stain if you don't clean it up in time, so be wary of that and cautious of that. You don't want your Sunday settings to turn rainbow unintentionally. Otherwise, cheap high plans from Family Fair work. The oil, best to use is mineral oil because it's perfectly clear. There's no color distortion. It's nice and bright and clear. It's not going to interplay with any paint colors. Baby oil also works, or the super lightest vegetable oil you can find. Most vegetable oils have a yellow cast to them, as you'll see in the video or here in the picture. You want to stay something as close to clear as you possibly can. Paint wise, this is where you can play and have fun and adventure. You can use anything from dollar store food coloring to Hobby Lobby, Michael's craft paint, or you can go super fancy because I am an artist when I'm not a photographer and use acrylic inks. You'll also need dish soap, preferably Dawn because it has the best interaction with the fat in the milk. Eyedroppers, if you want to add a lot of an amount of dish soap. Cotton swabs for lots of dish soap. Eyedroppers for paint. Toothpicks to swirl your patterns up. And if you can, find a craft syringe. Sometimes they have them at farm stores to, give you a more forceful injection of color into your mixture. Lighting this thing. Mike is a fan of speed lights. God knows why. I am a fan of continuous LED lights. The little yellow boxy things up in the corner, those are my go-to for photo shoots in low-lit environments or experimentation like this in my basement. Those are from Menards for about $14 a pop. They have a 2.5 hour long battery life fully charged, and they give you more light than you know what to do with. Just LED trouble lights.
How you had it set up to give yourself some working space.
I'll work left to right. We had some boxes stacked up when we were playing and experimenting with a clear coffee cup. We were playing with the lighting going across, from above, from below. You'll see the trouble light set up right below the craft boxes. We have the two bowls set up, one for the Crisco oil and then one for the mineral oil.
This is a quick video. Michelle has some tips.
Was that like an inch of oil?
2 inches of milk and then at least an inch of oil to sit on top to give you a good three-dimensional ability to shoot. You'll want to do a nice slow pour. Otherwise, it gets all bubbly and burbly, and you'll see that in images to come.
There you
the
go.
Slower you pour, the less interference you'll have.
There's the bubbly
one. You'll see the bowl on the right, chunky. The inch of oil will sit on the surface of the milk. So you'll have there's a barrier between the two because the milk is heavier than the oil. That gives you all that room to play with to layer the different paints. Some paints will sink, some paints will float, some paints will hang out in the middle and do their own thing.
Ready to blend.
Why is one staying on top and the other one's falling down, Michelle?
Because the milk is denser than the oil, and the paint or the ink sits right square in the middle as far as viscosity. That was a big word. Really proud of myself using that word. Now see, right here, we're having a reaction. The ink is mixing with the milk, doing a cool burst effect. Meanwhile, the other ink is encapsulated in the oil and floating on the surface of the milk. Just had explosions. You can also see a difference in the oils. The Crisco has a more yellow tone, while the mineral oil is pure and clear. Basically, all you do is make giant controlled messes in bowls. It does look like Skittles. Sometimes, if you want to get super creative, you can take dish soap on a toothpick and do a drop in between the layers or on top. It's doing something trippy. Ooh, there it is. Now it's bubbling. But you can see how it's pushing all the ink that's still floating on the surface to the edge of the bowl. There we go. There we go. Now that's the chemical reaction between the dish soap and the milk, and the fats in the milk. And that's as close to Bill Nye as I'm getting.
She can talk more about mixing it. This was just a quick clip so you can see how it gets to be in the pores. And when we show some examples, Michelle can talk about those just a little bit more. So, Michelle, why are you poking down so hard here? What happens when you poke down there a little harder?
I am making sure that the Dawn dish soap gets through the oil layer into the milk layer, where the fats in the milk will react with the Dawn dish soap because it is a degreasing agent. Fat is considered to be a grease, thus reacting with the Dawn dish soap. All the white bubbles, that's what happens when you pour too fast. You'll get that weird kind of chunky cottage cheesy look, which, let's face it, is really not sexy. But it kind of looks good. But the more paint and the more ink and the more swirling you do with toothpicks and soap, the more it's going to blur out and really start making some magical colors and creation.
What you can see here is the ink has spread just a little bit. Michelle, what is happening here?
This is doing like a high pressure injection of the ink straight through into the milk layer to maybe discolor the milk, turn the white to, say, a yellow tone with the amount of ink you use. This prevents the yellow ink from turning into like the little yellow bubble you see in the center of the image. This will just bleed out into the milk itself and change the milk a different color.
What if you didn't want to dump oil all over the place and make a mess like I would normally do?
Why then, Mike, you would just use whole milk, dish soap, and food coloring and just skip the paints altogether.
That sounds simple, Michelle. Does it do anything different?
You won't have the bubble effect, the whole full encapsulated bubbles. This turns more into like a psychedelic tie-dye the more you play with it. But you definitely need whole milk. 2% milk just does not cut it.
We have a little short video clip. It's only about 15 seconds, but here we go.
And see, as you can see in the video, I'm just doing separate drops of the food coloring. You want to keep a little bit of distance in them. And then you do the dish soap right in the middle, and it starts to react and swirl. And you can encourage swirl and movement by using toothpicks, Q-tips, whatever.
You notice a very light touch there, Michelle, and then you
It is a
stir.
very light touch. But you can see with a little bit of encouragement, it turns more into like a psychedelic tie-dye than it does a bubble thing.
Right. Couple shots. If you look over here in the upper right-hand corner of that slide, you can see that we had played with that and did some swirling around, so you can see there's a lot more blending of the colors. And you saw her do that with the pie pan version too. You don't have to just statically leave it and watch it go. You can encourage some mixture. Am I right, Michelle?
Absolutely. Dan was having a lot of fun doing that while we were experimenting and doing the coverage for this video. The more you encourage movement and playing, it will turn funny colors. Colors will blend and meld, but at some point in time, it will turn into like a muddy bowl of soup and you just want to dump it.
But how did you get those wonderful pictures, Michelle? Sadly, no videos.
Why, with my really big girl camera and my phone. This is not me, that is Dan. Dan had fun.
And I noticed in this one, he's shooting kind of like at a 45-degree angle using overhead light. And I thought I saw before either he or you were shooting straight down with your DSLR.
Yep. Just like that. Notice how I'm pretty much upside down, but my camera is not. I call that camera yoga.
But what if you don't have a big DSLR, Michelle? What would you do then?
Why, then you can use your phone, Mike. Exhibit A, me using my phone and getting really cool backdrops for my phone. Don't drop it in. That makes a really big mess and a whole lot of drama. And rice will not save you from oil and milk.
And you can see some of the examples that Michelle had sent, and you're going to see in a little bit, are actually like little cuts of these areas here, or you can move over here, and you'll see a couple of them, like this spot right there. You can see it's like you can see three-dimensional, and you're going to see more of those in the examples.
Yeah, when you're doing photography of this, you don't have to shoot the entire container. If you have a lens capable of really nice, tight, short focal length shots or macro, it's good to go in there and just shoot just the one section you really, really love. You don't have to shoot the entire container.
So those are the images. All right, we're going to start off with the one you did in the clear coffee cup, but
Yep.
I love this three-dimensional aspect of it, and that's what you get, I'm thinking, with the oil floating on top of the milk.
Yep, some of the ink caught in the oil and never actually sunk to the milk layer. The big swirls of blue and yellow, those are all ink that made it into the milk layer and are swirling and dispersing and reacting. We've got air bubbles trapped in the oil layer. And this is it just sitting still. No one's playing with it.
Now, is this, I think you can see it better in another one. Is that like a glittery ink that you have, Michelle?
Yeah, that's a bronze ink. Some of the pictures we actually use glitter in. As much as I hate glitter, I hate it, I still find a use for it once in a while.
Well, you got to use it up.
You have to. And this isn't paint. This is just one of the milk bubbles that got captured between the layers because someone poured the oil too fast. Someone being me, mainly.
Yeah, but it worked in this case.
It absolutely worked. It looks awesome.
This is somebody's eye, I think. This is what you were talking about, just taking a small portion of it, right?
Yep. Yeah, this is one very minute little section of one of the containers we had. And I think, honestly, up in the top left, that is that white milk bubble that popped and started to disperse.
This one right over here?
Yep.
Yep, I think you're right.
It blew up.
And that's what you were talking about in the thing. Since you do have the soap and the milk and reacting with the fat, you have this ever-changing image before you.
Yes.
There's glitter.
There's glitter. Because it's shiny and sparkly and it kind of looks like a little river in this picture. But again, this is one very tiny little section. So you're going to want a macro lens or macro extension tubes or something you can get a super tight shot on. Because let's just face it, that's just really, really cool.
This is that 3-dimension. You can see that these are just bubbles of the medium caught in between the stratified layers, which I think is redundant, but.
Technically, yes, but it sounded smart.
Yeah, I know. So there's that bubble there, and this is a nice full conglomeration of bubbles. And you got division going on, or merging, could be merging.
If anyone has any questions, go ahead and hit your space bar to unmute and shoot them my way.
Yeah, I don't see anything, and we can chit chat here a little bit too.
I think this is one of my favorites from our experimentation day because right in that one center bubble, it has like its own little Milky Way spiral galaxy swirl. We don't know how it did it. It just did it, and then we photographed it.
This is the one I thought looked like a fish.
It does.
The fish eye and the whole mouth, some kind of tropical, probably carnivorous. It'd probably eat you and kill you.
Or a bird.
Yeah, could be a bird. This looks like you had, like one of them is either leaked out or something.
I
this
think
area
there was
right
a group of 4 bubbles that I was trying to photograph, and someone bumped the table, so one of the 4 popped, or one of the 3 popped.
This looks like a flower petal with the veinings and all that.
It's a glitter.
I like that one because it was a trippy little galaxy looking thing.
Michelle, I think at one time, didn't you say you experimented with lighting using a clear dish and lighting from below or lighting from the side? This one right here, upper left corner. You can light it from different angles in different ways too.
Especially if you're using a clear container, you can almost do a whole 360 of different angles on as far as where your camera is and where your light is situated. The only part that really didn't work was when we set the actual container on top of the trouble light, because the milk and the paint at some point got too dense, so the light wouldn't come up from the bottom.
When we were shooting this at her setup, she had a very bright LED work light, shop light above it. The thing we had to struggle with there was making sure you didn't have a glare on your surface because of the light.
Yep.
And I think I did that to Dan. I moved that little Savage edge light just so it basically blinded everything he was trying to take a picture of.
Is this the same thing that you would use if you were going to drop it into a bowl? Would you use the same mixture?
You could. You would definitely want an eyedropper though.
Right, because I did that. I just don't remember what our concoction was.
Very cool and fun.
Light it and then just play with it and shoot with whatever you got.
Yeah, it's all about play and experimentation. Sometimes you'll make magic, sometimes you'll just make a really big freaking mess.
Now, if you do check out Michelle's website, you will see that she offers some kinds of classes and sometimes hosts some fun stuff.
As Mike mentioned, I do teach classes. I teach creative methods on how to use cloth, how to not be a cliche, bodyscape classes, which is an over 18 class, sorry. I teach how to use powdered paints to literally turn a human being that you're photographing into a big, bright, colorful piece of artwork. You will have colored boogers for at least 2 days afterwards because you inhale the paint. I teach DIY photography hacks, how to take household items to make soft boxes out of, or backdrops, or how to shoot through sun catchers that you got at a garage sale. All kind of cool, nifty stuff like that. I'm going to try to do group shoot this year for the summer, spring, whatever, with fire, smoke, and sparks, smoke bombs, how to do fire wire, which is like the really cool, you stuff a wire wisp with steel wool, set it on fire and do a 20-second exposure. It looks like you've literally captured a firework that someone's actually making. And how to shoot fire off of a mirror, which is basically just lighter fluid and a prayer and a lot of fast exposures.
Sounds good. Sounds like fun. Well, you know how to get a hold of Michelle. You know how to get a hold of me. Again, remember that the meetup group, West Michigan Photography Enthusiast, is sponsored by the Southwestern Michigan Council of Camera Clubs, swimc.org. Go to swmccc.org, and we are planning a live weekend of photography and digital imaging the last full weekend of July of 2021. And in the meantime, keep a lookout on Meetup for live from Hunt's video workshops and various things to kind of keep our appetite whetted until we get to the opening of the fun weekend in July at Hope College. Those are free and they'll be posted. I think there's another one going to be coming up later in July. Hunt's Photo and Video is a major sponsor of our event, and they are providing us with some free events of their own in the meantime. Check out your local camera clubs and keep a lookout here on Meetup.